Hello there everybody, Sam's Trains here. Welcome back to the railway and welcome back to another review of some high quality Hornby rolling stock. Today I'm going to be savouring their new Liverpool and Manchester goods wagons, and I'm sure they're gonna be great. Great festering turds. Let's be serious for a moment here. Hornby's existing Liverpool and Manchester goods rolling stock has been dire. First of all, you have the so-called flat wagons, which are nothing more than Hornby's Stephenson's Rocket passenger coach chassis, complete with the passenger steps as well. And instead of the complex passenger coach body, they've replaced it with brown planks. These were incredibly expensive to buy and the build quality on them was horrifying. But my favourite Hornby wagons are these. These are the so-called coal wagons, which are literally a brown painted Hornby Stephenson's Rocket tender, which itself was based on the 1930s Rocket replica and not on anything from the actual Liverpool and Manchester Railway, so hot garbage as well. Today though, we've got a couple of new wagon packs from Hornby and I'm very excited that this time they will have put some effort into them. And here they are. We have the Liverpool and Manchester sheep wagon pack and the Liverpool and Manchester horse wagon pack. How absolutely wonderful. I understand that these are new tooled and also that they contain animals, which I'm sure will be highly entertaining. Now, one thing that Hornby does pretty well with their Liverpool and Manchester range is giving you lots of information about the models. For instance, look at this information on Lion. We've got a huge paragraph here to explain what the models are about. What have we got for these models? Well, let me show you the description on Hornby's website. Liverpool and Manchester railway wagons have long been a popular sight in many a railway enthusiast's layout. No, they haven't. Era 1 has become popular in the last 2 to 3 years. That's just a load of nonsense. And pack contains 3 wagons tailored for sheep. And if you'd like to learn about the horse wagons, you can substitute the word sheep with the word horse. There you go, that is Hornby's extensive information on the horse wagons. Alright, well, what's the price of each of these packs? Well, they're the same price. The RRP on Hornby.com is a very reasonable, I think, £79.99. Yep, that's £80 for 3 wagons, but you can do better at the retailers. Retailer price being around £71.99. So each wagon in these packs costs just less than £25, which is about the same price as a new tooled Acura scale wagon. So I'm going to be holding these to the same standard as a new Acura scale wagon, which is going to be, well, pretty interesting, isn't it? So I guess the big question is, are these actually worth buying? Should you buy these? Or are they just another low effort, cynical cash grab on Hornby's part? I'm keeping an open mind about these, but I think it's time we looked at some sheep and some horses and we brought those two wonderful worlds together. So well done Hornby on getting these out in such a timely fashion. Let's see what they're like. Okay, and before we get started on these, I just want to say that I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to start with the horse boxes then, which look wonderful, which is a lie, but we'll be positive for now until they're out. Let me show the end of the box. We've got the product code, which is R60166. This is the Liverpool and Manchester Railway horse wagon pack. And there are the horse wagons in the front of the box there, looking just like every other horse wagon I've ever seen, which is another lie. I need to stop being honest now, this is a review. Okay, out it comes. And it's in a foam block, just like most of the Hornby Era 1 rolling stock is. Oh, don't drop it, that would be a terrible shame. Right, here we go. Horse wagon assembly instructions. Disassembling. To disassemble the wagon, hold the wagon in one hand and then using your other hand gently wiggle the component loose at one end as shown. Right, do the same for both ends to completely remove the component from the wagon. Are we not sure what this thing is, Hornby? Okay, we'll just call it the component then. Inserting parts. Yep, that's right folks, you can insert parts if you so wish. This allows access for the farm animal figures to be placed / positioned as desired. Okay, we're not calling them horses, maybe that's just to stop any real horses seeing this and being offended. And then to reassemble the model, place the components in position and gently squeeze the parts together as shown. fit one component at a time. So you can see in the diagrams there, we've got the little horse figurines. Let's see what they actually look like. And instead of them being packaged together, they've been split into what looks like 3 or 4 packs. Let's have a look at one of them. All right, horse the first. Although, unfortunately for this horse, it does have a broken leg. Look at that foot there. Yeah, that horse is on the way to the abattoir, unfortunately. Let's have a look at the other horses. I wonder if they are different. Yeah, this one also has its leg at a rather crooked angle. So unfortunately, these wagons are indeed taking these horses to their final destinations. Let's have a look at the last horse, which, yeah, is in exactly the same pose. So they are all the same. I'm trying to work out whether these horses are in a galloping pose or whether it's just desperately trying to paw its way out of the IKEA bookcase that it seems to have got itself caught inside. Yeah, I'm not too sure. Answers on a postcard. And then I guess the third accessories pack will be the couplings. And yeah, we've got quite a few couplings in there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 couplings. Yeah, so that's 2 for each wagon. That should be all you need. Right. Let's pull one of the wagons out then. Let's see what the first one looks like. I think they're all going to be the same. Okay. There it is, folks. The first of the horse wagons. And yeah, there's really not that much to them. Again, it just seems to be the passenger coach chassis again, which is disappointing because that immediately makes these unrealistic. And then we've got the new tooled element of the wagon, which is this brown section up on top, which is very unusual, isn't it? We've got sort of bookcase slash your mum's hallway wall panelling on the ends. Then you've got a couple of bars going across, and then more planks on the top, which look suspiciously like the planks on the top of the flat wagons. Okay, so let's just pull the rest of them out to make sure they're all in one piece. Okay, there's another one. Yeah, looks to be very much the same thing. Fair enough. And the third wagon should be the same again, I assume. There it is, a third wonderful horse wagon. And although the instructions show us how the horses get in and out of these models, I have absolutely no idea how you're supposed to get livestock in and out of these in real life. There's certainly no opening doors here. Would these side panels be removable somehow? Not sure. There's no hinge or any visible fixings on those. We'll talk more about why this might not be particularly realistic a bit later on. But obviously we've got to move on because there are more wagons to look at. And they are, of course, the lovely sheep wagons. Let me show you the end of this box then. So the product code for this is R60165. This is the Liverpool and Manchester sheep wagon pack. And these look a little bit more complex, as you can see. So let's get them out and let's introduce ourselves to my new sheepy friends. Okay, so shall we have a look at the sheep first, everybody? I think we should. So here we have 3 little yellow sheep. All right, yep, fair enough. And then in this pack, we've got 3 more sheep. So for this pack of 3 sheep wagons, we have about enough sheep to fill 1/2 of one of the wagons. Right, so my question is, where are the rest of the sheep? I've got 3 wagons, double deckers by the looks of it, and 6 sheep to supposedly fill them with. So that's quite annoying, actually, isn't it? £70, more than £70 for these wagons, and they haven't even provided enough 5 pence, if I'm being generous, sheep to fill them. It's very bizarre. And then let's see what we've got in here. Should be more couplings. Yes, it is. So couplings for your sheep wagons. Excellent. So let's find out how the sheep wagons are assembled. To disassemble the wagon, hold the wagon in one hand and then using your other hand, gently wiggle the component loose at one end as shown. Do the same for both ends to completely remove the component from the wagon. Alright, so it's pretty much the same as the horse wagon, except we're just pulling the pieces upwards to put the sheep inside. And yes, it is 1 sheep per massive compartment, so that doesn't make any sense at all. Right, let's have a look at the sheep wagons then, which I have to say look very big. Yeah, they're absolutely colossal. To say this one wagon is going to transport 2 sheep. Yeah, something strange going on there. These sheep are certainly treated better than modern sheep are in livestock wagons and such. Anyway, there we have it. A sheep prison, I suppose, is a more accurate description of what this is. Are they easy to disassemble? Yeah. There we go. So it's definitely quite easy to locate the sheep inside their little prison. So no magnets or anything, it's just a friction fit. But yeah, that seems doable, doesn't it? So I'll definitely insert the parts into these new wagons, and we'll see how they look in their so-called complete state. Let's just double check the rest of these wagons are all present and correct. There we go, sheep wagon the second, pretty much the same, there we go. And the third sheep wagon, sheep prison I should say. There we go, all right. Now then, if I pull in one of the horse wagons, you can see what they look like together. I think at the moment the sheep wagon looks a little bit better because it doesn't look like a piece of furniture, so I guess that makes it win by default. But we're going to take a much closer look at these wagons. I will show you the process of putting the horses inside the horse wagons, and then I'll get back to you. So see you in a moment. So now I'm going to attempt to wiggle the components before inserting the parts as per Hornby's instructions. And I'm going to start by taking the horse out of its packaging here. And one potential issue with this horse is that it appears to only have 1 foot on the ground, which A, is not quite accurate for a horse who's supposed to be standing in a container, and B, it's going to make him a little bit hard to sort of fix in place. Ooh, this is weird. It's like a rubbery horse, so you can bend it around a little bit. But I suppose on the plus side, that means maybe his leg isn't broken. Oh my word. Yeah, I'll take it back. Not got broken legs. Perhaps they've been through some sick 1800s animal experiment where they've had their bones removed entirely. Now, I'm not sure whether that's better or not, but that's ever so slightly disturbing. Now, the instructions for the horse wagon seem to show taking the top off and then taking the body off the wagon entirely. I don't know why you'd want to do that. Wouldn't it be best just to take the body off the wagon and then you can put the horse on the base? Why you would want to take the top off as well, I'm not sure. So let's wiggle the component, which is it requires quite a bit of effort. Ooh. Yeah, but there's nothing much to this body, so I suppose you're not likely to damage it. Big question, is the horse actually capable of standing? I guess that answers the question. No. Wow, wonderful. Okay. Can I reposition his feet? No, they are definitely returning to the I'm broken position. Right, patience running out. This is now going to be a sleeping horse in a horse box. Okay. I'll do the rest of these. If any of the horses are capable of standing up, I'll glue them in a standing position. But yeah, unfortunately, this one is at rest, shall we say. That's the most family-friendly way of putting it. Let's move on to the sheep. Right, let's rescue these sheep then, although we're taking them from the plastic bag into the sheep prison, so it's not much of an improvement, is it? And I'm going to be fitting 1 sheep to each compartment of each wagon. That's assuming the sheep are able to actually stand up, unlike the horses, are they? That one isn't. Oh, we have a sheep that can stand. 2023, everybody. Welcome to the modern world. Okay, well, let's try it. Let's take the base apart. Let's glue the singular sheep inside. I'm going to do it right in the middle because that will emphasize how silly it is that we've only got 1 sheep per compartment. And yes, I've got glue all over it. And let's be dead creative and put him at one end so we can look out at the other trapped animals. There we go. Okay. Yeah, it's farcical that there's literally just 2 sheep for this single massive wagon. Yeah, for the amount of money Hornby have charged here, that's a complete rip-off. Right, I'll do the rest of those and then we'll take a look at the detail. So if you've got 30 seconds to spare, I'll show you all there is to see. So here we go, a close look at one of the Hornby, Liverpool and Manchester horse wagons. Just one of the 3 horses had sufficiently few horrifying injuries so that it could stand up, and so that's the one we're looking at here. And as you might expect, these wagons are completely unrealistic. And I've actually found a period sketch on which Hornby's research for these wagons appears to be based. Here we can see what appears to be this horse box, and also a little bit further along the train the sheep wagon too. But as you can also see, the chassis for these freight wagons is much shorter than the chassis for the passenger coaches. And here lies the first problem. Because Hornby are clearly unwilling to invest the time and the money into developing a proper freight chassis for their freight wagons, they've just used the existing chassis that they made for their passenger coaches. And as a result, these wagons are far too long. And to compensate for this, they've just enlarged the body, which makes this wagon far larger than it should be if it was going to be realistic. And that explains why this poor horse has got so much room inside the wagon, far too much room in fact for a horse to be transported safely, which I guess could explain its horrifying injuries. The other problem with using these sketches as the sole basis for Hornby's wagons is that they're just that, they're just sketches. They're not detailed, as evidenced by the locomotives on here, which just look like blobs with wheels. Whoever did these sketches did not put lots of detail into them because they were not intending these sketches to be used to create detailed scale models. And so we've got this really strange situation where Hornby have used these basic primitive sketches to create what they are calling a detailed scale model. And as a result, the model really doesn't make any sense. I mean, first of all, how would you get a horse in and out of this? There are no doors, there are no ramps, and there are no visible fixings on these planks to suggest that these would be removed to let the horse out. So the wagon just isn't convincing from a realism point of view. But let's look at its features. You've got the ends, which have this weird panelling on them. The sketches actually don't show the panelling on the very ends of the wagon, so Hornby have made that up entirely. Nobody knows whether that's realistic or not. These panels on the sides, these are shown in the drawings, so they could be realistic, assuming those sketches are accurate. This weird planking on the top, that is not apparent in the drawings, so again, I guess Hornby have just done that to add some extra detail to the wagon. Whether that's accurate or not, we don't know. And then you've got the standard planking on top of the chassis for the horse to stand on. The chassis itself, again, like I say, is just the Hornby passenger chassis, so there is nothing here that we haven't seen before, except this time they've been clever enough to realise that a freight wagon for horses doesn't need steps for people, so the steps have just been left off, which is kind of a good thing, but it has left just gaping holes in the chassis where the steps should go. So it's still very clear that this is a passenger chassis, not an impressive model at all. Let's move on and look at the sheep. So here it is, the Hornby sheep wagon. Only some of the sheep were capable of standing up, so I've got some asleep, again, that's the kindest way to put it, and some standing up. With the sheep wagons though, Hornby have done an even worse job of interpreting the drawings. First of all, because of how stingy they've been with the sheep. If you look at the sketch here, the wagons are completely full of sheep. There is loads of them. Hornby, in their train pack that costs over £70, have supplied just one sheep for each compartment of the wagons, which just leaves them looking empty. Realistically, these wagons needed twice or even 3 times the number of sheep in order to look realistic. I would say 3 times. Again though, with this wagon, it literally is a sheep prison. There is no visible door through which the sheep could be loaded and unloaded from this wagon. But the sketches clearly do show doors. There's 2 doors per compartment, as you can see, one on the left, one on the right, and that would explain how the sheep would get in and out of these wagons in real life. Hornby have not represented that on their wagons though. As you can see, there is no breaking in these bars, there is no door. So again, this model is completely unrealistic because the sheep are literally sealed inside this wagon forever. They would have to have built the wagon up around the sheep in order to get them in there. And I don't know why. Is it just laziness? Did they not see the doors on the drawings? Is that how little thought was put into these models that they didn't even notice the doors on the sketches? I don't know. So instead we've literally got 2 boxes on top of each other with these sort of bars which have been painted to look metallic, and that's literally it. We've got the same sort of planking on the top and inside each compartment, too few sheep to make it realistic, and the much too long passenger chassis, which has led to the sheep wagons being much longer than they should be in real life. So again, for a £70 train pack, this is appalling. It's appallingly bad. Well over £20 for each of these wagons is absolutely shocking. There is good evidence that zero effort has been put into the research and the development of these models, and they look absolutely laughable as a result, particularly the horse wagons, where the horses aren't even able to stand up and they literally just look like a piece of IKEA furniture. The quality of the wagons is okay though. I would say the build quality on the wagon chassis is better than we saw on the flat wagons. There isn't as much visible glue on these or anything, but that's literally the only good thing I can say about these. So with that, let's get this slot down onto the track and let's find out if it all works at least. So here is today's test setup. As you can see, I've coupled up the various Hornby wagons in the haphazard manner that we see in a lot of the early drawings, and I've selected the Tiger locomotive to haul these wagons along. Before we give them a try, I want to talk about the weight of these wagons. The sheep wagons are very light indeed, at just 20 grams each with the animals fitted. And in terms of cost, that makes these £1.20 per gram. It's quite expensive. The horse wagons are even lighter at 14 grams with the horse included. That works out at £1.70 per gram. Now compare that with the new Rapido 15XX, which was obviously much more complex than these and, you know, properly researched, and that cost just 40 pence per gram. So that really goes to show what a colossal rip-off these wagons really are. They could literally be half the price and they would still be way too expensive for what they are. It's really quite shocking. Anyway, given their lightweight and therefore lack of momentum, they're not too bad in terms of how free-rolling they are. The sheep wagon got reasonably far down Gordon's Hill, and the horse wagon did even better. It got all the way down towards the signal box. So at the very least, your lightweight Era 1 locomotives will at least be able to haul these quite easily. Anyway, it's time to give these a test. Look at this entire train. Every single item on this train, including the loco, is completely unrealistic, which is crazy, isn't it? Well done, Hornby. They don't match the sketches or the information that we have about the real things, but do they work? Let's have a look backwards first. Yep, so all the couplings are at the right heights, basically because they literally all have the same chassis except for the coal wagons, which are Stephenson's rocket tenders. But yeah, I think this is the sort of distance from which these are best viewed, because their hideous inaccuracies are a little bit less noticeable from here. But okay, let's send them off around the track and let's see how they run. There we go. And it is quite a cool sight as they run around, isn't it? That's true, but I think you need a little bit more than just that when you consider that there is £200 worth of wagon in this train. Yeah, you heard that right. This train costs £200, not including the locomotive. And the fact that they're all completely unrealistic and badly researched is just crazy, isn't it? Absolutely crazy. I also want to say a massive thank you to historian Anthony Dawson, who was kind enough to answer all of my questions about the accuracy of these wagons. And he says that he reached out to Hornby some time ago with information on how these wagons could have been made more realistic. And yet, as we see here, that advice was not taken. So think about that for a second. Someone actually did Hornby's research for them, and yet they chose to ignore it because they'd rather not invest in a new and more realistic chassis for their freight wagons and just use the passenger chassis instead, thereby expecting their customers to pay over £70 each for these train packs, knowing that they are completely unrealistic. And, you know, this is angering, sure, but it's also quite reassuring because it means that when Hornby are finally gone, this is the sort of thing that we will be missing. And I think most people would agree that that's not such a bad thing. So neither of these wagon packs is impressive. I don't recommend either. But those are just my opinions. You may disagree, you may think these are great, and if you do, obviously that is absolutely fine. And now then, let's do some ratings for Hornby's horrific new livestock wagons to go with their Era 1 locomotives. The level of detail I've had to give 1 star because I cannot find a single redeeming factor here. There is strong, irrefutable evidence that these are too long and dimensionally completely incorrect. Hornby didn't even replicate the period sketches because there are no doors on the sheep wagons, and for that matter none of the wagons actually make sense from a loading/unloading point of view. There's too few animals, not enough to fill the sheep wagons, and the horse wagons are so large that they look just silly with 1 horse in them. The animals appear to have horrific injuries, which is quite scary for youngsters, particularly the horses, who appear to have had their front legs broken, and a good percentage of all of the animals could not be made to stand up while I tried to glue them into the bodies. So hopefully that demonstrates why these are 1 star. Oh yeah, and there's also the fact that they're on a passenger chassis rather than a dedicated freight chassis, as they should be to be realistic and to be worth £79.99. The performance is 4 star though, because they run absolutely fine. They don't get 5 star because there are no NEM pockets on these models, and there's no real reason why these couldn't have been designed to be compatible at least with NEMs, as well as the chain style couplings that come on these. Apart from that though, they are reliable on the track, they're reasonably free rolling, no major complaints with the performance. The quality similarly is okay, the build quality isn't too bad, but they're still very light and plasticky wagons, and the quality of the animals was poor. Value for money then, again there are no redeeming features here. With an RRP of £79.99 or a retailer price of £71.99, these are unfortunately a complete rip-off. Even if these had been properly researched and realistically detailed, that would be pushing it a bit for models of this small size and limited complexity. That is right up there with some of the much more expensive wagons that we see in this industry, which are properly researched and are demonstrably accurate. We know that Hornby are capable of putting together at least half decent looking models, and it should have been possible for them to take what we know about these wagons, add 1 or 2 bits and pieces just to make them logical, and then produce them for a reasonable price. They didn't do any of that, so I'm not giving them more than 1 star. So overall that is, I think, the lowest score I've ever given of 3.58 out of 10, but I absolutely believe that is deserved. If you disagree, please explain to me why. And that's a grade of E, the lowest I can give. Into the logbook we go, where they are of course bottom place, 19th place, just below the Eve model boxcars. So there you have it then folks, that was my review of the Hornby horse and sheep wagons from the Liverpool and Manchester Railway, in an alternate universe where this is actually what they look like. And if you're insane enough to want to buy some of these, let's say maybe you hate yourself or you'd like to ruin somebody else's day by buying these as a gift for them, then I do have affiliate links down in the description. Although obviously I cannot be held responsible for any disappointment that may ensue afterwards, unless of course you are buying them to ruin somebody else's day, in which case, sure, these will not disappoint. And to be quite honest with you, these have entertained me far more than they would have done had they been accurate and realistic and competent. So for that reason, I must say I am happy with these, but I think for most modelers that are actually looking to do some serious modelling, the entertainment value here probably wouldn't cut it. So no, I don't recommend these. Perhaps if they come down to half price, then they may be worth considering, but even then it's a bit of a stretch, isn't it? And it's quite hard to fix the inaccuracies in these wagons because, you know, their very dimensions are completely wrong. So yeah, probably one to just laugh at and move on from, and maybe reconsider if they turn up at 50% off or something like that. But even then, they wouldn't really be that ideal. So that's what I think. Please do comment down below and let me know what you think. Do you agree that they are inaccurate? Do you think they are accurate enough? Does it matter? What do you think about the value? Are they worth the money? Are they a rip-off? I'd be interested to hear what you have to say. But from me and my myriad of injured animals, I'll say thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. All right, cheers folks, have a good one.